Hey folks, a few days ago, a student of mine said, Phil, I need to know about retrospectives because I've got one coming up and I don't know how to run it. So I thought it would be fun for us to take a look at the 7 Ps for the retrospective. I call this 7 practices for retrospective. So let's jump straight in. Today, you're going to learn about the retrospective, what it is, its origins, and some tips and tricks about how to run it successfully. The term retrospective was popularized by Norm Kurth. It's gained favor in the Agile community. It's gained favor over the term debrief, postmortem, even in the world of traditional, we would say lessons learned. But a retrospective has something unique about it. A retrospective is different from a lessons learned in that they're actionable steps that we look to take. And on top of that, we say Agile Vegas, right? Whatever happens in the retrospective stays in the retrospective, right? It's not a blame game. We're not trying to call people out. We're just trying to find out ways to get better. It's part of the inspect adapt mechanism. The term reflection workshop from Alistair Coburn is encountered less often, but you can find traces of it in the Agile Manifesto. Now, if you didn't know, the government has a brilliant guide on Agile. It's called the Agile Assessment Guide. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Bob and other folks who took part in its preparation. In the Agile Assessment Guide, it reads, at the end of each iteration, the team should hold a retrospective meeting to reflect on what went well and what could be improved for the next iteration. It's an effective tool to enable continuous process improvement. That's the whole idea. Don't shut the engine off. It's a continuous process. Keep the engine running, right? So our mindset coming into a retrospective is one of ever improving processes and procedures, not ever saying we've arrived at the pinnacle and that's it and there's nothing else. No, we want our retrospective to be a continuous flow of great things. So the findings for the retrospective are determined and implemented by the team. For example, although retrospectives focus on process improvement instead of product improvement, the team can include action items from the retrospectives as user stories in the backlog and track the implementation. If a retrospective is not held at the end of each iteration, the team may not reflect on or improve the efficiency and effectiveness of its work processes, thereby impacting the timely delivery of a high quality product. Think about it. If you don't make this a process or a ceremony, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to be done. These retrospectives differ from end of project retrospectives or lessons learned, if you want to call them that, in that they provide the opportunity to improve in the next iteration, not the next project. You see, that's the problem with lessons learned. We talk about, oh, what are we going to do next project? No, this is the next iteration. In fact, hey, it's even what are we going to do different from now? So you want to find those opportunities as quickly as possible. Now, let's take a look at the definition of retrospective from the Scrum Guide, because we all know that those organizations who practice Agile, a ton of them use Scrum. The last time I checked, about 90% of firms said they use some elements of Scrum. So we might as well check what Ken and Jeff have to say about this, the co-creators of Scrum. It says, the purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. The Scrum team inspects how the last sprint went with regards to individuals' interactions, processes, tools, and their definition of done. Inspected elements often vary with the domain of work. Assumptions that led them astray are identified and their origins explored. The Scrum team discusses what went well during the sprint, what problems it encountered, and how those problems were or were not solved. The Scrum team identifies the most helpful changes to improve its effectiveness. The most impactful improvements are addressed as soon as possible. Note the word as soon as possible, right? You don't need to wait till the next sprint. It could be done like now. They may even be added to the sprint backlog for the next sprint. The sprint retrospective concludes the sprint. It is time boxed to a maximum of 3 hours for a 1 month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter, and there's no hard and fast rule. So the summary, my friends, is retrospectives have a purpose as an opportunity to improve process and teamwork. The rules, bring ideas. You have to make it a safe environment. Remember, Agile Vegas. And as far as the execution, you're going to ask what worked well, what didn't work so well, what will we improve, and implement 1 or 2 actions. make them measurable, review them in the next session. Again, it doesn't even have to be waiting all the way to the next sprint. If it's something that could be done right away, then just do it right away. It's that whole idea of continuously improving, Kaizen, inspecting and adapting. Now that you've got a very robust idea of what a retrospective is, let's talk about the 7 Ps of the retrospective. The first one is plan. So if you fail to plan your retrospective, it's going to be a waste of time, and that's an anti-pattern. We don't want our retrospectives to be a waste of time, so we want to plan the retrospective. We first of all want to ask the team, why even have these retrospectives? People need to be on the same page to understand that. Then we need to include in our team charters this whole concept of retrospectives. What are the rules for retrospectives? What's the reasoning behind it? What is the value of a retrospective? If people don't understand the value, they're not going to want to do it. So if you let them know what the value is, you coach them, train them into this understanding about the retrospective, they'll embrace it a lot better. Just like my student I was telling you about, his team, they're having a tough time doing daily meetings, 15-minute daily scrums, talk, that's a retrospective. They're complaining because they don't understand the value. And I told him, you need to let them know the value of this thing, right? Consistency is also important. They need to understand, why do we need to meet consistently? They also need to understand that this is all about reviewing ongoing improvements and doing things progressively. We're not looking to improve in the blink of an eye in every circumstance. Sometimes it's a change in mindset, but other times it could take time. One of the things you're going to do as you plan is also replan. What can we do in the next retrospective? So as you're planning for the retrospective, you're looking to do better in your facilitation of the retrospective. That needs to be part of your planning. What are the landmines you need to stay clear of? As a facilitator, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. What am I going to stay clear of this time? What are we going to do differently? What am I going to do differently? And it needs to be very clear who the facilitator is. The facilitator pretty much facilitates, right? The second P is to prepare minds. So again, you want to build on what you've already done in your team charter. You want the team to understand this is sprint focused. This is all about the team. This is the team's idea for how to improve. This is not a one-person agenda. It's a team thing. You want to let them know what exactly you're looking for. Could be impediments you want to talk about a little bit more. Could be defeats you've suffered. It could be velocity you want to talk about. It could be team synergy, right? Team synergy could be a topic. What is the theme for the retrospective? That needs to be thought about. Otherwise, you're all over the place, thrashing around and not getting anything done. You don't want that to be the case. And sometimes it's stakeholders, how to improve our stakeholder engagement. How do we get them better aligned with what we're doing? The third P is press play. You got to press play intentionally. You got to begin the retrospective intentionally. So in cases where you got virtual teams and people are geographically dispersed, you need to call them to the table, because trust me, I've seen it in retrospective. Some people are not fully present. So you need to be fully present. So in order to be present, you got to intentionally press play. And when you press play, you neutralize any negativity, right? As the facilitator, you say the right things, you check in with people, you help them to feel welcome and appreciated, right? You also want to use a concept of mad, sad, glad, or something similar. Mad, sad, glad is a rapid way for you to pinpoint emotions at a very high level. What are you mad about? What are you sad about? What are you glad about? Everyone will take time out to write the observations on sticky notes, and they'll stick the notes where they think it best fits. What are you mad about? What are you sad about? What are you glad about? In this way, you get people to mentally check in at a very high level. It doesn't require a whole lot of brain power, but it does require some focus. You also want the team to be aware of the whiffing factor. What's in it for me? There needs to be something in it for the team. That needs to be drummed down as a facilitator. And you also want to value people. You got to enable people to know they are valued. So play the mad, sad, glad game or something else. Get that high level intro, that high level commitment and understanding of what you're getting into. Number 4, play data gen games. What do I mean by this? I mean, play data generating games. No one wants to sit down in a room for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, being bored out of their mind. You got to make it enjoyable. One of my favorites is the sailboat. The sailboat is so much fun. It's a visual concept. It's a great metaphor. And this is from our friends at Miro.com. It just helps you put some structure around what you're retrospecting. Your Agile team will compare your last sprint to a sailboat and identify what propelled it forward, like wind. What was our enabler? What held it back? What were the anchors? And they'll put the observations on stickies and just stick it near the anchor or near the wind. Or you could even ask, what is our goal? Did we get to our goal? What is your perception of our goal? And whatever they perceive the goal, whether it was success or otherwise, they could also comment accordingly, right? We could also have reefs, future risks ahead, and things like that. You could make it so much fun. It's all about what the facilitator does with it. So I like these data generating games. Even if you're using an Ishikawa, make it fun. Make the dialogue fun and lively. You could use affinity diagrams, great for brainstorming ideas and then grouping those ideas. Mind maps, great for showing commonality between ideas. Force field analysis, showing forces for and forces against to make a compelling reasoning behind why you should do something. Dot voting, where you can spend those dots on whatever you want to vote on. All of these could be used in different ways. So it's up to the facilitator to choose maybe a couple of really good, fun data generating games. There are others you could play, like Starfish. Shape of a starfish, post-it notes, what you should be doing, what you should do less of, what you should do more of, what you should stop doing, and what you should start doing. These are fun ways to keep the team engaged. Go in, play these games, come out real quick. SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, and other actions you'll carry out to combat those. These are ways you could glean data from the team. The 4 L's, liked, what was liked in the sprint. Learned, what did you learn? What did we lack? And what did you long for? Again, great examples from our friend at Miro. They also have a page where we talk about the calm game. Keep, add, more, less. Make it fun, glean this data, something the team is doing well, you want to keep, something new that the team should incorporate in the sprint, you want to add, something that's bringing value to the team and you should do more of, that's more, and something that isn't going well and you should do less of, that's less. A great facilitator knows how to blend all of these in. We'll talk about a few more. Let's talk about the timeline retrospective. This format is especially helpful for multi-team, multi-sprint retrospectives. With this technique, you're reflecting back on a longer period of time, not your most recent sprint alone. You could also use the concept of tell a story. For new teams, retrospectives can be exciting, but for established teams, they can start to feel like a chore. This technique relies on some familiar retrospective concepts, but uses them in a new way. The gist is that you get some shaping words such as mad, sad, and glad, like I showed you earlier, and then team members will have a set time box to silently write a story about the last sprint. Here's the catch. They need to incorporate the shaping words. Team members read their stories aloud, discussing findings, and decide what actions they'll take next. We also have the start, stop, continue, very similar to the ones I showed you previously. A good retrospective isn't just about having a conversation. It's about identifying action items that you can use to improve your next sprint. This retrospective tool is great for turning a discussion into action. So the idea is we're collecting meaningful data. That's why I call them data generating games. You got to make it fun, and the next time will be more fun. And you can even incorporate other side attractions like entertainment and food. Help your team enjoy the retrospective so it doesn't feel like a chore. Let's talk about the last one here. The last one here is start, stop, continue. Start, stop, continue, as I have made allusions to before, is about making it fun and sucking the team in to give even more, because this is a time box of about 1.5 to 2 hours, right? So together you can, with the team, take it up a notch to the next level and You can review your latest sprint, identify actions that you should start doing, stop doing, and continue doing in future sprints. This start, stop, continue is kind of winding down based on all of the data you've collected. You're now whittling it down to round off this very important data generating stage, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to analyze the data. So you want to make sure you got all the data you need, want to make sure you got all the ideas you need, and then you can go into step 5, which is performing the analysis. Analyze the data, look for trends, look for convergence, look for parallels, look for places where you converge in agreements. And you could actually use the dig-sieve concept, the DIGCIV. So we define the problem, we identify the root cause, we generate alternatives, and then we choose the best alternative. So in step 5, this is really where you do the choosing. The define, identify, and generate, those are pretty much done in step 4. The choosing is going to be done in step 5. So you're going to choose the best ideas. You could use nominal group technique, you could use dot voting, you could use fist of 5, you could use just straight ahead voting, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, to get the best out of this step 5. After you have performed the analysis, the time comes to choose the best solution. So you choose the best solution, you use any of those techniques I talked about, but you want to prioritize your actions. So there are a number of actions, a lot of things you could do, but you want the top things. So you got to prioritize. And of course, who best to help you prioritize than the team? So however you want to vote, however you want to choose, rank, whatever, it's again a team thing. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So have everything prioritized, the next steps, the next actions. Perhaps it's just one, perhaps it's two. Perhaps the team feels there's bandwidth for more. Again, it's an individual team by team thing. Now, very recently, I heard people saying, well, we don't have to have a retrospective. Why are we being forced by Ken and Jeff to have these retrospectives? No one's being forced. You should do it because it's part of the inspect adapt mindset. There's actually no controversy. Why would you argue about a good thing? An inspect adapt mechanism. Why would you argue about that? Now, some people on the flip side, they say, well, we should have retrospectives whenever we want to. No one's stopping you from having retrospectives whenever you want to, but there better be something good to talk about for 1.5 to 2 hours. The idea is that depending on your cadence, you may actually want to have it more regularly. So if the cadence is like a 4-week one, you might choose to do it midway. No one's saying don't. Okay, so there's no hard and fast rule in the world of Agile. Hello, that's why it's Agile. Last but not least, you want to pursue outcomes or results. You want to pursue all these outcomes, these great ideas that you're looking to, these benefits you're looking to gain, pursue them and stay accountable. And it's not just going to be at the end of the next sprint that we take account. It's something that should perpetually be in our mind. So use your information radiators, facilitators, whoever is driving the facilitation should take it upon themselves to stay accountable, right? As a team, stay accountable. So remind the team, having these reminders visually, it also helps. Now, a lot of people think that you should turn the engine off and walk out of the retrospective and revisit the next one, right? Or visit the next one. I beg to differ. In my mind, the retrospective is always on. It's always on. Improvements are always on. So you can check out, but you can't leave. You're always in retrospective mode, right? You're constantly on the retro alert. Don't wait till it's too late. And the idea is to reduce improvement cycle time. So you got to be agile, even in carrying out retrospective actions, right? So the 7 Ps in a nutshell: you got to plan your retrospective, which includes replanning, whatever that may look like. You got to prepare minds. Then you're in the retrospective, you press play, you get into some real intentionality, play data generating games, perform an analysis, prioritize your actions, and pursue the outcomes, and do it all over again. Just go to the next step. The moment you leave step 7, the pursue outcomes, you're immediately replanning. So it never stops, this constant cycle of improvement. What are we going to do next? And you'll be amazed at the great things your team can do. Now, there are some common retrospective pitfalls that we should talk about. First one is poor planning. Whoever the facilitator is needs to plan. The second one is whining. We don't want the retrospective to be a whining and whinging session. That's just no good. So we need to ensure that while we're hearing the team out, we don't want to obsess on all the negative things without getting anything good out of it. It will not be useful if it's just about words and whining. So whoever is the facilitator needs to be able to call people back to reality of what we're trying to do. Another problem could be lack of trust, where we don't have a safe space, people don't want to speak up. The facilitator, again, is responsible for creating the conditions of mutual trust and safety. The whole Agile Vegas clause, that needs to be pushed. Poor execution. Being an all-hands meeting, a retrospective comes at a significant cost, and that significant cost is in man hours. So if the retrospective is not well executed, you're going to have instances where people begin to tune out and feel, what a waste of time. You know, all we did was just while away time and we gained nothing from it. You don't want that to be the case. So even though a lot of folks view this as being useful, there are some naysayers, like I told you in the beginning, that say, why do we have to meet every single sprint or every single iteration, right? So poor execution will only buttress their point of not having the retrospective. You want to watch out for that. The next one is redundancy. An effective retrospective should result in decisions and actions to take, right? If you have too many, people need direction on which ones to carry out. So you got to prioritize them, you know, and that's that step just before pursuing the outcomes. You got to prioritize. So important to prioritize, because you get a bunch of issues, you get a bunch of impediments, problems, things to resolve. You got to go for one, right? And that's why in time past, the Scrum guide would say 1 or 2 improvement ideas per iteration, right? You could find people coming up with the same thing, retrospective after retrospective. That is a signal that it's becoming a waste of time, just an empty ritual, as the Agile Alliance puts it. You don't want your retrospective to become an empty ritual. So these steps, if well practiced, will help you prevent that from happening, or definitely slow down, reduce that from occurring. All right, so plan, prepare, press play, play data-gen games, perform analysis, prioritize actions, and pursue outcomes. I hope this gave you some ideas, my friends, for your retrospectives. Make it fun, some jokes, some singing, something fun, even if you are virtual. So what? Even if you're virtual, everyone bring a drink, you know, bring your favorite drink on camera and have fun while getting some real serious, great stuff and improvements done. All right. Thank you, my friends. I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share with your buddies. Take care and bye for now.